some of the stereotypes, and this is why some groups don't get diagnosed as autistic, is autism's just poor eye contact. There's more to it than that. Some autistic people do struggle with eye contact, some don't. Some autistic people, I think the key thing to remember is context. So some autistic people struggle with eye contact in certain contexts. People they're more familiar with, they may be fine with making eye contact, or they might struggle at an interview or in unfamiliar situations. Or some autistic people I've met just don't make eye contact at all. They said to me, but you don't sit down and look at the radio when you're listening. And actually, some people, when they're not looking at you, they're listening more. You ignore that sort of outdated thing of like, look at me when I'm speaking to you. For a lot of autistic people, they might be taking in more info by not looking at you. And one autistic person once said to me, it's as hard as staring into the sun. So it is there, but stereotypes are where we apply it to everybody. And actually, a lot of autistic women that I've met as adults, they don't necessarily have that issue. And that's why GPs aren't referring them for an autism diagnosis. Not all autistic people are good at maths. Again, stereotypes. Some people are, some people aren't. I think a while ago in the media, perhaps fueled by things like that film, Rain Man, and there was a big push on autistic savants in the media, perhaps in the late 90s, early 2000s, and some of these stereotypes still stay around today. So some autistic people are good at maths, some aren't. But yeah, it's pretty much a stereotype. There's a great short video to watch called "What Not to Say to Autistic People." There's a great response on that from an autistic person about whether he's good at maths or not. Poor communication. Now, I think it's pretty outrageous that we define a whole neurotype, autism, by a deficit of communication. That's the way you can get diagnosed. But actually, what I see with autism is there's a difference of communication, and it does often depend on the environment. Often autistic people are the minority neurotype in an environment. So their communication style isn't always well understood, or they might be perceived as being blunt or rude. And then the rest of us non-autistic people, we don't communicate very clearly. And often we say to autistic people that we'd like something done, but we don't really give concrete examples. We use phrases like concrete examples to say we're not very clear. We find it hard to be clear. Some autistic people have said to me, when we communicate with them, be pedantic. Do you want that piece of work done? Or do you want that piece of work done and emailed back to me? And actually, when it comes to communication, it can be context dependent. And also really think about what you're saying. So I had a parent of an autistic child say to me once that they'd sent their child who's autistic upstairs to put some new trousers on. The child came down wearing 2 pairs of trousers because the parent hadn't said, go upstairs, take your existing trousers off, put new trousers on. I think it's a very good example of how we don't always say what we mean. And then we're surprised when people might not do what we say. But a really good example of someone that actually is a good communicator in the right context